Hi, I'm Jim Fitzsimmons, joined with Adam Miller today. Today is June 17th, 2020. We've got a few messages for you based on some of the feedback we've received, as well as just kind of giving an overall general market update. We've been seeing a lot of messages, both coming through the transmission and on social media, with drivers concerned about their safety. And so we just want to make sure it's very clear that we will never put a driver or any employee in harm's way. And so if you're going into an area that you don't feel is safe, whatever the reason might be, stop, notify us, get with your driver leader, so we could take appropriate actions. If it's calling a customer to let them know that the load will be late or needs to be rescheduled entirely, we definitely will do that. So just know that we're never going to ask you to put yourself in harm's way, regardless of what the issue is. And the same thing could be said too about if you're not feeling well. If you're not feeling well and you don't think you're up to driving the truck, again, don't drive the truck. We're asking you when that happens to just notify us. In that situation, most likely we're going to find another driver to repower your load, get the load there either on time or possibly a little bit late, or if we need to, we'll reschedule the load. But we don't want you driving if you're not feeling well and you think you're sick. Bottom line, regardless of the issue, weather, sickness, or just some other safety issue, you're the pilot of that truck, and so you've got to make that decision and then just communicate with us so that we know what's going on, and then we can take the appropriate actions. Adam, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jim. Hey, so I wanted to take a little time out to talk about what's happening in the freight market, as well as what's happening with the supply of equipment in the broader market. So today we're seeing the market continues to strengthen, demand's continuing to improve, and supply is continuing to rationalize. Our load count continues to increase as more and more customers ramp up their volumes. Retailers that are now opening up are replenishing inventories, which are leading to more and more truckloads. Some retail sales volumes came out for May. They were up 17.7% when compared to the previous month. And hey, I know April volumes were down dramatically, but there was a really nice rebound in May as economies opened, stores began to open up, and consumers were out and spending. So I think that's really encouraging. And if the consumer can remain resilient over these next few months, I think we could be well positioned for a strong back half of 2020 from a demand standpoint. We also look at what's happening with capacity across the country. There's been a few data points that we track on a regular basis. One would be jobs. So in April, the trucking industry lost 88,000 jobs, which is a record by a long shot. That's the biggest decline we've ever seen. Now some of those jobs I'm sure will come back in May, but I think net will be down quite a few jobs, and that's gonna hinder the ability to have as many trucks on the road, because we all know that the biggest challenge as a trucking company is to have enough drivers for the trucks that you own. We also saw the first monthly report from the FMCSA Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, and they reported that nearly 20,000 drivers tested positive for illegal drugs and thus far prohibited from driving until the return to duty process has been completed. And thus far, only 989 drivers of the 20,000 have completed that process, and that's been a program that's been in place since the beginning of this year. So that data is through May. So we're netting out we're losing about 4,000 drivers a month to the clearinghouse because you have drivers that just can't pass a drug test. Now we think that's very positive from an industry standpoint, because for one, it makes our streets much safer, right? We have an 80,000 pound vehicle that our drivers operate, and certainly we don't want someone who's taking illegal drugs to be operating those vehicles. So I think it's really good from a safety standpoint, but again, it also means we have less drivers and therefore less capacity in the market. And with less overall trucks in the market and the potential for demand to continue to improve as the economies open up and stores ramp up their volumes, gosh, this is setting up for what could be a really good environment for truckers. And you know what we're doing in this time period is, at Swift, hey, we remain focused on growing our volumes, providing a high level of service for our customers across all our lines of business, and while at the same time we need to improve the productivity and therefore the paychecks of our driving associates. And our team is working relentlessly to try to achieve these initiatives. I also want to touch on the reintegration process that we started on June 1st, where we were starting to bring some employees back into the office, and ultimately our goal was to do that as safe as possible. We have a few locations where we've seen case counts rise, and so we've made adjustments to our plans. We're taking different precautions. We're maybe slowing down the process of bringing employees back in the office, and you know, we're just remaining nimble as we see the environments change and we see case counts change. And this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. We're looking at it state by state, and we're working very closely with local leadership to make these decisions. And we meet weekly to discuss what's working and what's not. And ultimately, again, our goal is to ensure that our employees have a safe and comfortable environment to return to, but also can be productive and can collaborate with our employees. And I think thus far we've done a good job working remotely, but we do feel like eventually we'll have more folks in the office, but we're going to take that very cautiously, and we'll work very closely with our employees and our leaders to make those decisions. I want to just emphasize how much I appreciate all of our team members, including our driving associates, our mechanics, our office staff, working together in these challenging times to help Swift navigate this environment as successfully as we have. And we want to thank you again for all the hard work from our team members here at Swift.